Same exact properties, same exact time frame. It's time for a brutal, unfiltered Airbnb versus corporate housing income showdown. And I'm not going to soften a single number for either side. If you want to understand the true return on your capital, you have to look at the private income ledger, not the marketing numbers. There are no hypothetical spreadsheet models here, and there's no fake hype. This is raw numbers, comparing short-term rental versus mid-term rental profitability side by side, using my actual corporate bank deposits month by month. A few years ago, I fell for the hype. I looked at the massive top-line bookings coming through consumer apps and genuinely convinced myself I was building an empire. I was completely blind to the real expense ratio underneath it. Hidden platform fees, premium turnovers, and structural wear and tear ate my real margins alive. And I was left with an expensive, high-stress job that owned me. Today, I'm dropping the definitive real estate income comparison scorecard across 4 categories: gross revenue, true net yield after expenses, active labor hours, and stress. Let's settle the score with the actual numbers. Let's start with category 1, gross revenue. This is where the short-term rental story is genuinely intoxicating. During my peak historical seasons on Airbnb, my 3 properties would routinely generate a combined gross revenue of $13,500 in a single month. That's $4,500 per door. On paper, your brain looks at that number and assumes you've won completely. But look at the annualized reality against the new model. Shifting those exact same 3 properties to Model B, medium-term corporate housing, yielded a steady, locked-in contract rate of $3,500 per property per month. That's a total of $10,500. Amateurs look at the peak month and build their entire financial plan around it. That's a fatal mistake, because Airbnb gross income is entirely seasonal and volatile. When a slow season or a platform algorithm shift hits, that $13,500 gross crashes to less than $3,500 across the entire portfolio. The corporate housing contracts, by contrast, are locked. It's a contractual business-to-business obligation backed by corporate insurance budgets. The gross number is lower at the peak, but it runs with total consistency every single month of the year. Picture 2 calendars side by side. On one, every dollar depends on a stranger finding your listing that specific week. On the other, the number is already locked in before the month even starts. I learned this the hard way during a slow February a few years back. Bookings dried up for 11 straight days, and I still owed the same mortgage payment regardless of whether a single guest walked through the door. That kind of exposure simply doesn't exist once your revenue is contractual. Corporate gross numbers give you an unshakable foundation of predictability. But top-line numbers are meaningless until you factor in the expenses that quietly drain your revenue. This brings us to category 2, the real expense bleed and the true net yield. This is exactly where the Airbnb dream breaks down once you actually run the math. To extract that $13,500 gross on Airbnb, my operating expense ratio routinely climbed to 60%. That's 15% platform booking commissions, credit card processing fees, professional turnover cleaning at $150 a pop, guest supply restocking, and municipal licensing costs. When the month cleared, my actual historical net cash flow on that $13,500 gross was compressed down to roughly $5,400 total. And in the off-season, the fixed mortgages ate the gross alive, dropping net cash flow into negative territory. And that net number doesn't even include the liability exposure, short-term rental insurance riders, damage deposits that never quite cover the actual damage, and the occasional legal letter after a guest injury all chip away at that number further. None of that shows up on the dashboard until it happens to you. Now look at the corporate housing ledger. Our fixed monthly operating expense across the 3 properties sits at $7,125. That includes the underlying mortgages, insurance, taxes, and landlord utilities. Because turnovers happen only a few times a year instead of 3 times a week, our cleaning and platform overhead drops off a cliff. Our corporate net cash flow lands at a highly predictable $3,375 a month, every single month. When you annualize that math, the corporate model structurally outpaces short-term rental net yield by thousands of dollars a year, and it insulates the business from vacancy risk. The net numbers prove corporate housing wins the efficiency game over a full year. But wealth building is not only about the capital you accumulate, it's also about the hours you sacrifice to secure that capital. This brings us to category 3, active management labor. Let's be transparent about the value of your time. Most real estate investors fail because they assume their own labor is free. It's not. Your time is the most valuable asset in your entire wealth building operation. If you're burning it on low-leverage tasks, your business model is fundamentally broken. When I tracked my time under the old short-term rental model, I was burning over 82 hours a month of active, high-stress labor, chasing cleaners, answering guest questions, and fighting platform support bots. Under the corporate model, that number dropped to just 12 hours a month total. Dropping from 82 hours to 12 hours doesn't just save time on a calendar. It changes what kind of business you're actually running and what kind of life you actually have while running it. By dropping my active labor from 82 hours down to 12, I bought back 70 hours of free time every single month. That's time I can now put into finding my next acquisition, instead of getting stuck in the logistics of hospitality. Concretely, that's almost 2 full work weeks back every single month. I use it to underwrite new properties, meet with lenders, and actually spend time with my family, instead of responding to a guest who can't figure out the thermostat at 11 at night. This brings us to category 4, the one that decides whether you actually survive as an entrepreneur or burn out completely: stress. I score this on a simple 10-point scale because chronic stress is a real cost. It wrecks your ability to make good long-term decisions for your company. On the Airbnb model, my stress score was a constant, exhausting 9 out of 10. You live in a perpetual state of hypervigilance. Every notification sound on your phone sends a spike of stress through your system. Is it a guest complaining about a minor issue? Is it a health and occupancy threat? Is it a 1-star review that tanks your ranking? You're running an unhedged hospitality experiment 24 hours a day. Now look at the corporate housing profile. I scored a resilient 2 out of 10. Corporate housing entirely decouples your business from retail consumer emotional swings. That 2-point score is not 0 because you still have real work, audits, agreements, occasional crises, but it's nowhere close to the constant low hum of anxiety that came with running a full-time hospitality operation. Your tenant is a structured business entity. If a light bulb burns out, they don't threaten to ruin your reputation on a public review forum. They submit a maintenance ticket or simply replace it themselves. Picture 2 phones sitting on a desk. One buzzes every 20 minutes with a guest question. The other stays quiet for days at a time. I still remember the exact night I realized the shift was real. It was a Tuesday, close to midnight, and my phone simply didn't make a sound. Under the old model, that silence would have felt like something was wrong. Under this model, it just meant everything was working exactly as designed, and I actually slept through the night for the first time in months. You're dealing with institutional professionals operating on corporate insurance budgets, not vacationers projecting their personal expectations onto your property. Shifting to this model genuinely cured my operational anxiety. It protects my downside and frees my mind to focus on growth instead of firefighting. The full head-to-head scorecard proves one thing clearly. Chasing high-turnover retail hospitality metrics is a mistake once you actually run the numbers. Real wealth acceleration comes from net profit efficiency multiplied by operational freedom. Line up the 4 categories: revenue, expenses, hours, and stress. Corporate housing wins 3 of the 4 outright, and comes close enough on the 4th that it barely matters once you factor in everything else. That's not a marginal edge. That's a completely different way of running a business. By taking my exact same properties and running them through a rigorous corporate housing framework, I secured higher annualized net cash flow, freed up 70 hours of monthly labor, and completely insulated my mind from constant stress. You go from an anxious retail host to a highly targeted institutional asset allocator. One honest caveat: in the interest of full transparency, Airbnb still wins on raw speed. You can snap 3 photos and have a paying guest inside your property within 24 hours. Corporate housing demands a much heavier front-loaded setup. It took me nearly 3 weeks to land our first corporate contract. Airbnb wins the sprint, but corporate housing wins the marathon on every other number that actually matters. If you're completely done with hospitality delusions and want to master the exact frameworks that build scalable, high-leverage wealth, Make sure you're fully subscribed to this channel right now. We publish the real numbers here every single week, no highlight reels. The data side by side proves that the numbers behind this corporate housing model are a real win for serious operators. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that my path through this entire season has been completely flawless. The math looked pristine, and deal 1 was completely locked down. But exactly 7 days after running this direct comparison, a massive, unpredicted setback hit my portfolio out of nowhere. It nearly derailed the entire business. In our very next episode, I'm pulling back the curtain on the honest truth. You'll see the exact setback, how bad it got, and the precise fix I deployed to save the system. The full breakdown of the setback is waiting for you next inside episode 8 right now. The playlist is live. Do not stand still. Click the next video. Take immediate action, and let's navigate the tension point together.